yet. Do you need a list of those, Eva, or can you just see we're here, of who's here? That we're all here, except for Nelson. Okay, you've got it. So we are going to approve the agenda if I can get a motion for that.
Sorry. I move that we approve the agenda for Wednesday, September 18th, 2024.
Okay, motion by Nan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any changes or comments regarding
I
the
was just
agenda?
going to ask, we received some information from you in an email, and I was just wondering if that was left off the agenda?
It was, because I did not hear back from anyone by the time the agenda went live. So they may come in for public comment, and then if we choose to put it on for October, we can.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I didn't get any response until, did get one response on Monday, but the agenda was live and everything, so.
If anything can be added up to 24 hours before the meeting,
Is it
So
24
it's-
or 48?
is 24. And
Okay.
so just because it's live, it doesn't mean something, and we can add a discussion item right now if we
Well, do
wanted
you
to.
want to add a discussion item?
The question would be, are you fully prepared on it, or would you like some more time?
Personally,
Yourself and the,
Personally, I think, let me think.
Could get prepared more. That would-
I mean, we can't, I really feel like we should probably hear public comment if it comes today. Because you guys all got the attachment, is that correct? So you all had plenty of time to read that. So I guess, yeah, more or less, I didn't put it on because the feedback, and then with one feedback on Monday, I did feel like it was a little unprepared. So if you want to
Well,
put it
for
on
a
October.
discussion, the way I understand it, it's always been if any board member can request from the superintendent, or it's in our procedures, just
Right.
request it and then it's on the agenda. So if somebody requests it, it's not up to somebody to say, oh, we're not going to put it on. It's just a request of a board member can do that.
So the request, did you want to? So the request, it was an inquiry, but we did have a discussion
Oh, so
about it.
somebody did, oh, yeah.
Yes, we
Okay,
did
I
have
was
an
just wondering
inquiry,
why.
and she and I
Okay.
discussed it and felt
Okay.
it might be a little bit better for October, correct, Nan?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's where we'll go with that.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good, thanks.
okay. All right, we'll turn the time over to you, Superintendent, for our spotlight. Oh, wait, we need a motion to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, go ahead.
Great. Well, I'm excited to highlight the great event we had yesterday at the USU campus here in Blanding. We had our first annual Civics Day, which was in part due to Constitution Day yesterday. We had 600 plus students that attended this event. And really the purpose of the event was obviously to highlight the Constitution and the rights and privileges we have as citizens in the United States, but also to help build the civic knowledge of our students in a more hands-on way. So we had 22 panels of individuals who, we invited a lot of people to come and have a table and be able to discuss their part in civics. So whether they're elected official, whether they're part of our education system, we had the sheriff there. There are lots of people that were there. So we had 22 different tables set up, and the students went around and got a signature at each table and helped understand what their role was as part of civics overall. We also, in addition to that, had 3 panels, and students had to choose one panel to attend. The panel were made up with a variety of individuals. Lori was there representing the school board. But the students asked questions of those panels, so they had about an hour to ask questions of that panel. So that was a really fun event to hear what the students had to say and what they wanted to ask, especially sitting in the hot seat. But anyway, so it was a great event. And then we were supported by State Senator David Hinkins, who came and was our keynote speaker and spent the day with us as well and participated with the students. So it really was an exciting day for students. We plan on having this being an annual event for our students to help them become more civically engaged and understand their role in our government and in our community and the rights that they have to vote and how those outcomes, what they can be for them. So appreciate everyone who put those efforts together, especially Jeff Wingett and Jesse Grover, who headed that committee. Linda Boyle also came back and did some additional support, and then all of our social studies teachers and Navajo government teachers helped with that as well. So.
Okay. Actually, it was a great day. At the booth of the San Juan School District, she and I were sitting there and we said, the question that they were supposed to ask us is what they knew about the board. And they're just like, deer in headlights. They had not a clue what the board did. And so it was quite a good opportunity to explain briefly, this is what the board does. And then some of them had asked what area they were from and if they knew who their board member was. And most of them didn't know, which rightfully so. But it was great. It was a really good day. And the people that put on did a really good job. So thank you. Okay, we will move to, is Christian here?
Yes.
Oh,
Virtual.
he is on Zoom?
Yeah, we're on Zoom.
Well, hello, we can't see you, but there you are. Okay, we're turning the time over to you regarding the Monument Valley lease agreement.
I've got with me Joseph Jenkins, who's our real property, and Berg Mazer, who is in our the AG's office, counsel. And superintendent invited us today because we were working on an update, correct, Berg, that, and Joseph, regarding some funding that we received to help support the building of the Monument Valley facility. And so I believe some documents were sent along and just wanted to make sure that we answered any questions you all had and could respond to any inquiries the board might present.
Any questions from the board? Now, I assume these are needing to be, we need signatures and everything this month. How timely are these?
Joseph, do you know when we need those signatures?
Yeah, I can maybe address that. Yeah, so we had a closing scheduled for next week. It looks like that's going to be bumped back to the first part of October. But yeah, we would appreciate it if the documents were signed as quickly as possible. But certainly in connection with this meeting, we wouldn't want to wait until your next meeting in October.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from, go ahead,
Can you
Mary.
give us an overview? In reading through the documents, you'd need to be an attorney or very well versed in these kinds of documents. Can you give us an overview of the reason these are you're requiring these, and basically what each document represents? Unless, maybe, did the rest of the board members understand the documents?
No, I was going to ask exactly that as well, Mary.
No, I had to get out my Google lookup.
Okay, so can you give us can you take us through the documents and explain those things to us, please?
Just an overview.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that as well, Joseph, unless you.
No, go right ahead, because I don't have the documents in front of me, so that would be wonderful.
Okay, so the main reason for these documents is just to facilitate the transaction from a financial perspective. So it requires the creation of a separate entity. That's Aggie Sandstone. The Aggie Sandstone Foundation. And so right now, USU is, as I understand, is the holder of the ground lease. And so this would just allow an assignment from USU to Aggie Sandstone for purposes of the ground lease. That's that first document. Again, that's just to facilitate the transaction, this new market tax credit transaction, which is the financial kind of arrangement that's allowing this project to work. The other document is something that's required by the lenders here, which is Wells Fargo and MoFi. And it's essentially just acknowledging that, that San Juan School District, as the owner of the land, isn't going to essentially interfere with, the use and enjoyment of the property by the tenants. And then the final one is a non-debarment certificate. This is a document that's often required anytime there is federal funding or funds involved. that just acknowledges that anybody kind of connected to the transaction hasn't been debarred or suspended or is ineligible from, for purposes of, any federal department or agency. So it just, because the lending institutions require that assurance, they're prohibited from lending money to people who have been suspended or debarred by the federal government. And so that's just a certification or an acknowledgement that nobody connected to this transaction falls under those restrictions.
So if I could provide just a little bit of context, and Mary, you're exactly right. You kind of have to have a law degree to understand these, and I don't fully understand it, but just to give an overview, is we received some funding through a new market tax credit, which is a government program essentially to help direct funds into areas that don't typically get overlooked in terms of investments and capital projects and the like. And essentially with that the lending institutions get a tax break over a 7-year period of time that amounts to more than the amount that they invest in the project. So this was utilized at USU for the first time with the Moab building, and then we were utilizing it for the second time with the Monument Valley building. And these folks are kicking in $3 to $4 million to be able to help this building, but it's a really complicated tax structure. And as part of it, we have to create a separate entity, and we've done that and run that through the appropriate channels. That's called Aggie Sandstone Entity, and that helps channel the money directly into the project in Monument Valley. So all of the funding will go directly into the project. None of it will go into the foundation. The foundation is just a board that makes sure that 100% of the funding gets spent for the reason it was awarded or gifted to the institution.
Okay, how much is the loan for on this property to build this building?
So we have a budget of $14.1 million for the project.
Okay, and that's all a loan. Is that correct?
No, some of it, $5 million of it came from the state of Utah. Some funding is internal. $1 million came from the Norda Foundation. $750,000 from a private entity that wanted to remain anonymous. $500,000 from the Navajo Nation, and just over $3 million are coming through this new market tax credit.
So just over $3 million from the tax, are you saying that's how much the loan is, just over $3 million, or is that a tax credit? And then the loan is, I was taking notes as quickly as I could, but I'm not quite there. So bottom line, how much is the loan that will need to be repaid?
So we don't, the loan isn't repaid. It's not a loan. So Wells Fargo and MoFi in these cases give money to the institution, then they receive a tax credit from the federal government that amounts to more than what they're investing into the project. And so it would be categorized more as a gift, not a loan. The reason why these banking industries want to do this is because they get this tax credit that amounts to more than what they were investing in these areas that are often overlooked.
Okay, so basically, or specifically, Wells Fargo is donating the money because to repay all of it or to pay for everything except for what so you mentioned the project's 14.1 million, 5 million from the state, 1 million from NORDA, 750,000 from private, and 500 from the Navajo Nation, whatever that totals. And then the rest of that will be a donation from Wells Fargo for, what did you say, seven years? Is that accurate information? Is that accurate or no?
Burke, did I summarize that correctly?
Yeah, my understanding is it's structured like a loan, and just, to be fully transparent, Utah State has retained outside counsel to assist with this, and the outside counsel is really, taking the lead for Utah State on this and structuring this transaction. But my understanding is that that it is set up, like a loan. But at the end, Wells Fargo and MoFi, the lenders, essentially just walk away from the money that they've contributed to this project in exchange for getting the tax credits.
So payments will need to be made, and where does the money come from that will make these monthly payments? The reason I'm asking these questions is I'm wondering if the school district, we have the obligation to make sure that we don't have a liability that we're not aware of or prepared to deal with in case of a default, because as was mentioned earlier in the description, is that we are the landowners, that it's leased, but we actually own the land, which does essentially give us some liability, and I'm trying to determine how much liability if there's a loan on this property. So where does the money come from for the monthly payments? And what are the terms of the loan? If you're about to close in October, I would think there would be paperwork, and we probably should see that paperwork with the terms of the loan and how it affects San Juan School District if a payment or consecutive payments are not made.
Yeah, so the structure, the documents that we're presenting to you today, right now, USU is leasing the property, and the documents that are presented for your approval today simply just rework who the ultimate lessee is going to be. It allows us to assign the lease to Aggie Sandstone Foundation to facilitate this transaction. In my view, it wouldn't expose the school district to any additional liability. Now, certainly, I can't advise the school district from a legal perspective, and I encourage you to consult with your own attorney to the extent that you're concerned about those issues. But these documents are simply changing who the lessee is on the property.
And so it takes it from Utah State to a private foundation. And so now we're leasing the land privately instead of to Utah State or a government entity.
To a charitable foundation, correct?
To a charitable foundation, which we in the past, in talking about leasing land, a particular land in Monument Valley, I would think we would need to talk about that specifically with legal counsel, where it's not Utah State. Now we agreed to lease land to Utah State, but not a charitable foundation, so that would.
Similar to the food bank in selling them that way.
And they bought it, so it leaves us no liability. We are no longer the landowners there, so. What are the terms of the loan?
I don't have the terms of the loan, but you wouldn't be a party to the loan agreement.
But we have the liability of being the landowners with a building that's being constructed, so there would be some liability there, some concern. I'm just thinking without some of those answers, we may want to, our board, we can have special board meetings if this, because you mentioned that this is timely, and so my intention is not to hold anything up, but we have the responsibility as board members to protect San Juan School District going forward. And so we probably want to, we could call a special board meeting just to deal with this, and we could be virtual and get some of those questions answered about what our liability is in case of a default on the loan. And so where will the money come from that is going to make the payments on this loan?
Mary, we'd be happy to set up a meeting with our Chief Financial Officer, the VP of Finance, David Calley. He would have that information, as he was instrumental in structuring this. You asked some really good questions, and want to express hope that, as a state institution, we worked through all the channels to set this up and worked with the proper entities, and this is the second time we have worked through this, and so we in no way, as Utah State University or state institution, are going to put the school district in a difficult position, and want to make sure that you have confidence in that and be able to answer your questions to help you feel that way, and so maybe it'll be best to grab our VP of Finance, Dave Calley, and he can talk through those specific financial questions.
Okay. All right, I think that's all of my questions. Anybody have any?
Okay, Steve has a question for you guys.
So I guess I'd like to know a little bit more about this Aggie Sandstone Foundation and the contract. It's a Utah nonprofit corporation. What's the relationship between USU and this Aggie Sandstone Foundation? Does USU control it? Is the board of directors of Aggie Sandstone Foundation from USU? Help me understand that.
Yeah, the board members of the Aggie Sandstone Foundation, I mean, Dave Calley sits on the board. There are, I think, 2 other individuals that are affiliated with Utah State, and then there are some individuals who aren't affiliated with Utah State, but its sole purpose is to just essentially facilitate this transaction, and it has no other, purpose.
Thanks.
Okay, Nelson.
If there is no final agreement, is there a separate agreement in place for the groundwork that's happening right now as of today?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Or the documents, I know they're pretty lengthy. Is this regarding the financial part of it? Or is there another agreement for the go-ahead of the construction part of it? Because construction is going on.
Yeah, correct. So DFCM is in charge of the construction, and they're moving forward with the construction. This is really about who's going to own the building and the financial structure of the transaction. It's not about the construction of the building.
Okay, thank you.
If I understand right, San Juan School District be the owner of the building because it's a lease. Is that correct? And, I mean, ultimately, if we have a half, you know, again, I'm sorry, because I didn't follow through with, let's see, we're going to have the chief financial, guys, is that one, David Calley? Okay. Give us information about how much the loan is and the terms of the loan, and then, I think those are the only two things. And then, who are the two people, or the board members, as Steve brought up, Aggie Sandstone, it said David Calley, and then two people from Utah State. Are they designated right now, who the board members are for that from Utah State?
Let me pull those names for you. Give me just a quick second. So I'm a non-voting member of the board. Teresa Tyre, Tom Lee, James Taylor, and Steve Meekum.
Okay, so several.
Yeah, Teresa, or James's and Dave are work for the institution. Both are vice presidents of the institution. Teresa is the chair of the board, and then Steve and Tom are not employees of USU, though they are friends of USU. So.
Okay. And so the board is complete for the Sandstone Foundation?
Yeah, the board has been established.
Okay. Okay.
And-
All right.
and My understanding, and Joseph, or Burke, please correct me on your question or comment earlier on who owns the building. My understanding is we have a land lease, but the building would be owned by Utah State.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but, okay. Well, if we can find out some more information and then ultimately, like, set up some time to answer some of these other questions and have our attorney answer our liability with the building, and then set up a special meeting to accommodate your timeline and not hold up the project, that would be, I think, ideal for the school
Who would it
district.
be best for me to work with to get that meeting set up between, and who on your end should be involved in that meeting?
You can work, Christian, you can work with me, and we'll get that set up.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. And Tyrell, I'm assuming, will be part of that, and our attorney, and I would like to be involved in that as well. And assumed other school board members, maybe.
Colleen?
I had a question. It sounds like these papers need to be signed as soon as they could. So my question is, why are we just getting these now? Did this just come up on your end as well, or? I know we did groundbreaking back in May, if I'm correct. I mean, I know you had time to present to our board before then. Why now?
I believe the documents were sent a bit ago. And some of this, it's been a lengthy process, quite frankly, to get this set up with Wells Fargo and MoFi. It's been a very, very long process, and just to get it to the point that it is at. And so it's not that we're trying to rush you on from our end. We want to make sure you have time to do your due diligence and ask the right questions and have us answer provide sufficient answers for you. It's just been the timing of the event, and we finally got to the point in time when we could begin to move it forward, and then the board meeting came up, and it's one of those situations where it's, hurry up and wait, and then go really fast. That happens sometimes in life.
Oh, I know that all too well. Okay, thank you for answering.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, there is one question that I believe that you didn't answer that didn't require that second meeting is, where is the money coming from? Because it's basically Wells Fargo, but then mentioned that, no, it's not going to come from Wells Fargo. So where will these monthly payments come from? Where is the revenue source that's coming in that will make those monthly payments?
Joseph or Burke, are you able to answer that, or should we leave that to VP Valley?
Yeah, if we're going to be scheduling another meeting with Dave, we might as well have Dave answer those questions.
I think, Mary, we could take a guess at it, but it would just be a guess on our part, as VP is the one that has the knowledge on the details of the.
So the board's set up and you don't know where the money's going to come from to make the payments?
I think the best thing would be is to sit down and have a conversation with VP Cali, and then he'll be able to give you those answers.
Okay, Superintendent?
So Christian, we have our next board meeting in 3 weeks, so I'm even wondering, I'm not sure
Yeah.
what timeline you're on, but if we could do it as part of board meeting, then all the board can be involved. So that meeting will be October 9th, so I don't, if you guys can take a look at your schedules and let me know, because that would be a great way to just do it right in board meeting, in an open meeting, and everyone can ask their questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'll touch base with VP Cali today and make sure we get it on the calendar and see if that lines up with the timeline on USU's end.
So, Christian, one clarifying question, which I'm sure you did clarify, but, so these documents today are the channel with which the funding would, or the legal documents where the funding will be distributed in and out, and that's why, which has nothing to do with the land lease, correct?
Burke, do you want to respond to that?
Well, it does have something to do with the land lease. It's assigning the land
Real estate,
lease
yes.
to Aggie Sandstone.
So
But as far as the loan documents, I mean, the school district doesn't become a party to the loan documents.
Right.
The ownership of the building, San Juan County is not going to own the building. San Juan County owns the land. They've leased it to Utah State. We're proposing that there's an assignment of that lease to Aggie Sandstone in order to facilitate this transaction.
Okay.
But ownership is going to remain, not with San Juan County
The school district, okay,
for the building. And San Juan County continues to own the land.
sure. Okay, so if you guys will check your calendars, and then, Christian, if you'll get back with the superintendent, and hopefully we can shoot for October 9th, does that
Yeah.
work with your
I'll find
time
out
frame
today
for
and
signatures, if possible?
I'll get back with you as quick as possible, either today, depending on VP Cali's schedule, or tomorrow for sure.
Well, and why not have that, have him just scheduled for our October 9th meeting?
That's what he's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the
Sorry,
goal.
thanks.
Well,
Yeah.
Christian, I mean, my preference would be to schedule something earlier. I mean, there was a mention that the board can have a special session. I think October 9th's going to be too late.
So
As Colleen
the tricky
pointed out, it's-
part is getting
It's,
a quorum here. What was your date again? What was the date you originally gave us?
Well, the the original closing was set for September 24th. That's not going to happen, but it's been tentatively rescheduled for, I think, October 3rd, which I also am not sure it's going to happen then, but I hate to plan something after that date before it's actually been postponed.
So, Christian, maybe after you have that conversation with the VP, that you could throw out a couple dates back to the superintendent, and she'll get with us as a board and let us know. Would that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chrissy, I'll touch base with you likely tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
If I may just,
Okay.
so the question came up, who will own the building, and I'm just reading the contract, the lease agreement that was signed almost 2 years ago between the San Juan School District and Utah State University. It's in section 3, and it just says, so long as this lease remains in force, any building, structure, or other improvement located on or constructed by USU on the property shall be owned by USU or its assignee, subject to the future interest of district. So, anyway, so hopefully that answers your question. So USU would, yeah, so the school district would not own the building or any other structure on the property.
Well, the way the deeded land goes is the facility on the land is either leased or owned, and if it's no longer leased because of a default, we would be responsible for those payments because it was our land unless we wanted to lose our land. That's the way it works. And so we don't have an answer about even where the first payment is actually coming from. We're a public entity and we're in public meeting where the public has a right to know, and as board members, we have the obligation and the responsibility to look out after the best interest of the school district. And so when these can't be discussed in a public meeting and we have to have another meeting where it's not a public meeting just to find out how much the loan actually is, the loan terms, and where the revenue is actually coming to start making these payments.
So we will have that discussion after,
We need
Christian,
to
you get
do
back
it
to the
in a-
superintendent, if that's okay.
in a public meeting.
Does that work?
Absolutely.
All right.
Happy to get those answers for you.
Okay. Hey, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're TSSA plans. Oh, Julie and Derek, yes, thank you.
All right, so our TSSA plans are teacher and student success plans that also go to the school community council each year. It comes down through legislative funding and rule to the district, and then you were able to see the district level of that a couple of months ago in board meeting, and then we're discussing tonight and sharing with you the school level plans for each one of the schools. So I know there's a lot in the plans that you read, a lot of language, a lot of information there. We're happy to, there's Derek, we're happy to address any of your questions or concerns or go over them in whatever way you would like that done. We could give you a brief synopsis of each one if that's helpful. We can do whatever is most helpful for you to understand what's on those plans at this point for really board approval to move forward to begin utilizing the funds in these plans.
So a question, can those be amended if they get halfway through the year and they're not, like the other plans,
Yes, but it should be
can
done,
they?
in rule, it should be done through an email or a conversation or some kind of documentation with the board so that the board knows that those amendments are happening, similar to what we do with school land trust.
Okay. And I guess my only thing is some of the plans at the top show the fiscal responsibility and some of them don't. So if you wanted to know, you kind of had to add it up. It'd be kind of nice if they were all at the top, the beginning, just for reference sake, but.
Yeah, we just added the total budget on the elementary ones. That's probably what you're referring to. And then the expenditures are down in the expenditure portion.
Yeah, so for example, just like, now Ryan, don't take this wrong, but like ARL, like there's at the beginning, it says Tim Power, but there's like not the fiscal right there, but I think on like, just real quick, MHS, theirs is right, like total budgeted salaries, instructional. So when you glance at that front page, you can see exactly what that fiscal responsibility is. So just a clerical thing.
Yeah, we can adapt. This is just a template we give. And
Sure.
So some things have been changed by schools, so we'll change that for future plans. And we can update that on the current plan.
If that helps. I
Yep.
mean, that helps
Notice the
me,
same
but anyone
thing.
else have comments or
Um,
any clarification?
This money, do we know how, I mean, we get it this year, so is this the end of the money, or, no?
It's legislative funding, but as long as it's approved, it continues to come to the school district and it comes through the superintendent.
Okay, thanks.
And it's really focused on, our student success framework is our quest model for our LEA. So all of these goals, you'll see that they have a quest area, and that's because it's all tied to, that is our framework as a district, that principals and schools and councils determine the funding based off of those areas and needs in those areas.
Okay, thanks.
I just want to give a shout out to White Horse High School and Montezuma Creek Elementary on their goals that were precise and measurable, you know, when you got there. Very well-written goals and implementation plans.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I second that. I had a question, and I'm not just sure about this, but when I saw San Juan High's travel registration 8,000 hotel and per diem, I was kind of like, what does that mean? If we can get a full explanation onto what that's for. Is it for training? Is it for software? Or is it for, if I could just get a little more on that.
Sorry. Yeah, so with San Juan High, there's two main goals. Again, the first one is dealing with the SRO.
Right.
And
So
then
it would
the
be
second
goal
one
number
you're-
2.
Right. And then the second one is dealing with some of the RTI. So providing those supports for the schools requires some of their teachers and individuals to travel so that they have supports with implementing the education or the tiered system within our schools. So a lot of that focus is looking at those and getting training. So looking at that, we have to send people out to get those training and getting those resources. So that's part of the other implementation of that. Again, with the description, the RTI is just looking at response to intervention. So it's really handling some of the tier 2 individuals who fall within that need additional supports. And so getting training to help support that is really the intention for that.
And up is Salt Lake, Price.
Yeah, so again, it just depends on where the training is. Again, if it's provided for someone where they come out through statewide, it could be, St. George, it could be Price, it could be Salt Lake City. So
Okay.
I think they try to left that open because, again, if we identify a space, we're kind of bound to that. So I think that's kind of the reasoning for that openness and just making sure that if there's a training there, we're not limiting ourselves to one that we see and just keeping it vague in that sense.
Okay. And then I also had another question for Montezuma Creek. On there, it's listed for supplies. Are we lacking, or do we just needed more to support what they're
Yeah,
wanting to
so our
implement?
focus has been tier 1
Okay.
instruction this last year and this year, and we're also focusing on 95% and our supplemental tier 2 and tier 3. So that's the intent, is that they want to use some of those funds to support their instructional needs. They don't know what all of those are right now, to be completely honest with you, but there are a lot of curriculum and supplies that come with implementation of a new supplemental program, and so that was their intent.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, board? Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Okay, Laura, we're going to have you start with policies till 4 o'clock and then see how far you get. Because you have the next few agendas items.
Yeah, first one, Aaron, I might have Aaron come up and join us. This one's a technology policy. But really, it's addressing a lot of the changes that we have seen again in different codes and rules. So it's going over data collection and the actions the district's required to take if there is a data breach. And then we're also addressing and outlining what the district can do with biometric data. Is there anything specific you want to discuss, Aaron?
I would just say that the language in most of this is straight from state code. They've given us those steps. There's there's three. One is, they're both deal with data, or the two deal with data breaches. One is how we inform people and who we inform and how quickly we inform. The other is that we're required to report those data breaches to the state so they can help track those. So in the policy itself, you'll notice we've done that. The other piece that has come into this is biometric data, which is data that we take. Right now, we're only saying we only collect a fingerprint for clocking out at the end of the day. We don't use any other biometric data. That may change in the future, but right now we have, that's kind of where that line has been drawn. So we have data breach protocol, data breach reporting, and biometric collection and disclosure.
Any questions for them? And remember, this is a first viewing, so
This,
there's a lot to take in on this policy.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I know this might be kind of far off with the new security that we're implementing in all the schools. I mean, is key cards going to be something that's going to be covered under this, or I don't know. I mean, it'd be cool to use your fingerprint to open up the door, for teachers.
It would be cool. And as we look at those systems, and Tyrell can speak a little bit to this, I've got Jared here as well. If we end up using some of that biometric data, we would need to add that to our policy to cover that. There's, you can use it'll do facial recognition, it'll do, hand, fingerprints and things. But right now, we're saying we're only limiting it to the data collection for purposes of timekeeping.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But that may happen. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Just a couple of technical items on the policy. In section 12, it says data will be utilized solely for the purposes for which I was originally collected.
Oh.
So if you can, I don't think it was supposed to say I.
No, I don't think so.
That's why it's the first reading.
And then, if there's a typo, it is my fault. Laura, I sent it to Laura, so.
I've gone through it as well, so I'm a
It's a
little embarrassed I
long
didn't catch it.
policy.
And then the other technical item is from one paragraph to the next, we're inconsistent. Not only from one paragraph to the next, but from policy to policy, we're inconsistent on San Juan School District versus the San Juan School District. And I guess I'd propose if we're using San Juan School District as a proper name, it shouldn't have the word "the" in front of it, but that's technical and.
Do a search on all
Yeah.
1,000
We'll
policies.
search and find and replace.
All right.
That's good to know for future as we're working through
Yeah, that
policies
is
to
good
keep
to
them all consistent.
So it should be San
San
Juan
Juan
School
School
District,
District.
not the San Juan School
Right.
District. That's what you want. Okay. And this will be back next month.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got time, so we have another first read. It's our substitute policy. I think that was the next one on there.
Yes.
Just some rewording to go in line with code a little clearer. So one of the biggest changes was instead of putting, if possible, we're putting the district will prioritize hiring and using licensed educators as substitutes when available. We've removed some outdated language like the No Child Left Behind. And then we've done some rewording on, I wish I could see, on during not using teachers. Sorry.
Which one is it,
terrible.
Laura?
Student teachers should not be used as substitute teachers. We added during their clinical hours because we would like to use them if they'd like to substitute, so we did add that. And then we did add any individual who's ineligible to hold a license, so any reasons in that code for having your license removed, they cannot serve as a substitute teacher. So just some technical things changed in there to align with code was really the big changes in this policy.
Any questions? Oh, go ahead.
Section 6, student teachers should not be used as substitute teachers during their clinical hours. The word should, does that mean it's okay in certain circumstances?
Or will not.
Or will not. We could change that, yes.
Okay. So we're saying it's not okay.
We do not want them being
Period.
used during their clinical hours. They should not be left as the teacher. But we would like them to be able to sub outside of their clinical hours, is the purpose of that sentence.
Okay. Mary, do you have a comment?
No, so I was just going to clarify, so that'll be changed to will not be allowed.
And change that for the next reading.
Okay.
And then.
Did anybody else have any more?
I think I kind of had a question, sorry. I was just trying to look for where it was. It says, okay, teacher more than total of 20 days during school year, unless, so is that 20 days consecutively or overall?
20 days total in the same classroom unless a licensed teacher cannot be found.
Okay. That was all. Thank you.
Does that need more specific, or we're just clarifying?
And
What do you think?
that is actually straight out of
Code.
code.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, anything else on that one? Okay, let's do one more, let's do your second.
Okay.
You got, keep going.
Second reading for this one, this is us adding our kindergarten. We put in our half-day kindergarten rules and then also put in the rules regarding kindergartners being toilet trained to enroll in school.
Then when it goes down to 6120.9, expelled from another district, a student who has been expelled from another district who is otherwise eligible to enroll may enroll in district schools. However, upon receipt of the expulsion order from other school districts, the district may continue the expulsion under the terms of the order or may allow the student to attend classes without completing the period of expulsion. Do we allow, I mean, how does this address for something that a student has done in another school? We may have those expulsion hearings, but where are we protected from enrolling a student who has some serious baggage that needs to be, this is saying may, and it just sounds pretty lax.
This is not any changes we review. This is our actual policy right now. So I'm
Right.
going to let superintendent answer that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something we do check is to see where they're coming from and what the terms were. So I think this gives us the flexibility to say what was the terms of the expulsion and what are we going to do here. We could, under this policy, enroll a student to be an online student with San Juan School District, where they don't come into the building, and they continue that time, in an online setting, not in the building. So I think with the policy, I can't say why it was originally written this way. I'd have to go back and look at code to see if it's something from there. But I think how it's written right now is just giving us the flexibility to go either way and have the terms of saying what would that look like for that student to enroll. But we can look into the code. When we made these changes, we weren't looking at changing anything that wasn't new to
Right.
code. But we can go back and take a look at that if you really would like it to return next board meeting.
Okay, yeah. I would, it just seems really vague, like, oh, they could do that if, I mean, like, we don't need to do anything, we can just allow them to come and move on. Because things like that happen where a student is expelled, and so they want to go to school somewhere else, and so they do, but seems like we should have something in place that says we need to deal with it.
So you'll just bring that back on policy review committee?
Yeah, we can revisit. We can look at that piece.
And then on, let's see, number 2, let me see if I can figure this out. It's just second bullet, and I don't know if I made good enough. It's a clerical error, so if I can't find it, I can, I may just have to, it's just a clerical, and I didn't, it's 6120.6, number 2, second bullet, end of the first line. Okay. The student provides a form from the Department of Health stating that the person ID, I think it's supposed to say is. It says ID, and it should say IS.
And is a bona fide.
Okay. All right, anything else on that policy? Okay, so you've got note of that one?
There's one other thing, but I think it's clerical too, and I'll
I've done other
talk to
people. I'll reread that one.
we won't hold up
We'll look at that one.
what's going on. Yeah. Next page of health.
And then this one is a second reading addressing student surveys. Putting in writing that the district does have to get, at the time of registration, parent consent for the school climate survey or any surveys related to an early warning system or social learning questions. And then further down, we have the information we are required to provide parents about any of those surveys as well.
Any questions on that one? That's our second viewing on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, let's have you stop there for a minute and then don't go too far. Okay, we're gonna jump down to our, where are we at? Let me find us. To our reports. And we have our two Ryans with us. We love it. Okay, Ryan Palmer. It's Principal Palmer. Come on up.
I don't
Let
know
me
about
pull
being the
this up
first one of the
real
year to
quick.
do this.
Give us just a sec so we can pull up your presentation. Does everybody have it up? Okay. So we're going to let you speak to your slides to start with. And you don't have to go through every one. You can just give us an overview.
Okay, well, thank you. Like I said, I'm not sure how I feel about being the first one of the year to do this, but here we are. Yeah, we're excited to get another school year rolling. I love to start with the celebrations. So a few of the things that we've really paid attention to the last few weeks, particularly as we've got some of the finalized data and things from the state system, is we were excited to see some growth in our students with disability. That's an area that we've had an area of focus. Is going to continue to be an area of focus, but seeing some growth there is more. It's even though it seems like kind of a small number, it was reflective of a lot of pretty significant planning and effort on the part of our staff. So that was the first thing that really that stood out as we were analyzing some things there. The other thing is we're really excited about some of the CTE programs, pathways that we have created. We have a number of opportunities for our students to explore some pretty awesome hands-on things. We are adding another CTSO this year. We have had FFA and FBLA in the past. That is new as of about 3 years ago. We didn't have that in existence prior to that. We are adding a Skills USA cohort this year to allow some of our students some more opportunities to have some good, rich educational experiences. And the hope with that is that as we're creating those organizations, there's also a pathway for them to fit right into some opportunities for them at the high school level to really explore some pathways for them there. So we're excited about the growth that we've seen there. We are still rolling out the process of getting students into those CTSOs. Last year we had about 90 students that were enrolled in FBLA and FFA combined. We're anticipating closer to 150 students combined between the three this year, which is a little under 50% of our student body to be enrolled in one of those CTSOs. So we're excited about that opportunity and what that means for our students. So those are a few of the things that we're excited about in terms of our celebrations. With some of the goals that we have right now, as you see, our students with disabilities continue to be a focus, as it's a TSI designation that we're continuing to increase. And I've got to be fairly frank that there's probably, these are the goals that we set forth with our leadership team, analyzing where we've been, what we've accomplished, and where we need to continue to go. And as we have had received more data, the kind of the finalized data in these last even just a few weeks, we had our raw scores and making plans based on what we had available. And as we've finished that process, we're still fairly early in the year in terms of looking at where we're at and what our goals are. There is a chance that some of these right now are going to change, if I'm being blunt. And the reason for that is as we've looked at our year-to-year 90-day plan goals, and as we've looked at our long-term data and how that's reflected, we've realized that there may be some things that need to be adjusted. As we analyzed, finally got the results back, and as we sat down with our leadership team, even as of Tuesday morning of this week, looking at the results of our 90-day plan goals from last year, we are measuring students by cohort so we can see the growth of the students year to year. And we had some goals for our students to reach a 3% proficiency increase. And we were able to reach that in all but one area. We had our students with disabilities we were able to reach our goals there as well. And so we were excited about that. And then as we get looking at more of the long-term data, we're realizing that even though we're reaching these goals on a year-to-year basis, we're not seeing the baseline increase that we want to see. So we might need to be looking at some different sources of data that we need to go back and look at that a little bit better. So our baseline data continues to increase. If you look at our data overall, our language arts scores have been they've been fairly well maintained. We've had 1 or 2 point proficiency differences throughout the years, but they've been maintained. And so despite that we're seeing our students grow from year to year, which we want to see, our baseline hasn't increased the way that we want it to increase. So we've had to hit the road running again and go back to the drawing board and say, are we setting the goals that we need to see the baseline growth? We're seeing the year-to-year growth, but what do we need to do differently to see the baseline growth? So we met on Tuesday morning to start coming up with some plans about that. My leadership team they're awesome and they're really hands-on, and so as we speak, I just send them a list of things to start looking at and consider, and we're going to pour back over it on Friday afternoon and see if we need to adjust the goals that we have and how we're tracking those, and see if we need to make some other changes. We're excited for the growth that we've seen, but we know that we can make some changes and see if there's things that we can do to be more effective. So that kind of highlights some of our exciting celebrations and also kind of where we're at and making some pivots. So.
Okay. Do you guys have questions? Any comments?
I have a slightly weird question.
I like weird questions.
Okay, when my youngest daughter was in middle school, there was a trend towards opting out of the RISE testing. Are you still dealing with that?
Not really.
That's good.
No.
Because I had to ask, because I know she was probably pretty good at testing, and so
yeah, we would
having
love to have her
her
scores,
not
but.
There, exactly. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't still a trend, because I know that kind
really
of affects numbers.
has died down significantly, and Stephanie can speak to that, but that really has died down.
That's great.
We had another that the student was gone for some reason. I don't remember if it was a medical reason, and missed some of the testing, and the parent came back and said, well, they're really nervous. Can we opt him out? And we said, as a parent, obviously that's your choice. But here's the pros and cons to each, and they still ended up having him do that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that trend has died for sure.
Anything else?
I had a question.
Yeah.
Any ideas how to manage those challenges? I mean, I know you said you're going back to the drawing board, but that was one of my main questions was, I mean, we can sit here and analyze all day, but what
Analyzing doesn't mean anything if we're not doing
Yeah.
anything about it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we are looking at, one of the challenges that I mentioned is one of the things that we're specifically looking at, and that's our Tier 3 interventions. Our Tier 2 interventions in our MTSS system have really, really improved over the last few years, and we're feeling very good about where our Tier 2 interventions are. We have a pretty intensive data collection system, and we look at each student by standard at each grade level so that we can really identify very clearly where our student strengths and weaknesses are to utilize our Tier 2 intervention system. And as teachers are going throughout the year, that Tier 2 intervention system has really improved. So the students on grade level getting grade level content that need a little bit of that support, we feel good about where we are there. So our challenge now that we feel like will help increase our baseline is improving our Tier 3 interventions. We shoot to have 80% of our students get the instruction through that Tier 1 system. The Tier 2 is 10 to 15%, and then the Tier 3 is higher than that. And the challenge that we have seen is Tier 3 is something that we need to address structurally. Our Tier 2 interventions we do through our flex time, that happens through there. We have some good things that are happening there. But Tier 2 is intended for students on grade level, filling some gaps, where Tier 3, we have students at 2, 3, 4 grade levels below where they need to be. And sometimes the instinct is to say, we need to pull back on the grade level instruction, we need to come down a couple grade levels and meet them where they are. But if we're not giving students grade level instruction, they will never have a chance to fill those gaps. So we have to maintain the structure and the schedule that they have of in class receiving grade level instruction. So what changes can we make within our structure and our system to provide the support they need to fill those significant gaps? And it has to be something that is built into their schedule. And we're looking at that. One of the challenges that we have with the schedules with our students is we want to be very, very cautious about making sure that we are not tracking students in a schedule. And when I say tracking is if the way our schedule is set up, we don't want to create situations where students don't have an opportunity to participate in a CTE pathway that could have a very significant impact on their life. Yeah. I don't want to pull a student out of a CTE course that could be something they do for a career. So we're not willing to do that. So where can we then, in their schedule, build in time to really fill those 2-3 year learning gaps? So that's what our leadership team right now is looking at. And we're looking at utilizing some of our flex time a little bit differently, where Tier 3 interventions could be several years below grade level. It's possible that we have a group of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that need the same Tier 3 instruction, and one teacher could provide that as opposed to the grade level teacher doing it for each of their students. So how can we utilize multi-grade level teachers to support filling those gaps for our students? So that's what our plan is on Friday. We're asking the teachers to come ready with some ideas. How can we change that into their schedule? I'll probably have to buy them lunch because we might be there for a little while, but we're going to figure out some of that type of stuff and see what changes we can make now for this year, and then what can we do differently in years to come in terms of maybe a better mentoring program for 6th graders coming in so that we have better baselines there, things like that. So those are some of the ideas that are floating around right now.
Thank you.
Sorry, that's a long answer.
No.
I'm really.
It's fine, because I
wordy.
have a 6th grader coming up next year, so I want
Awesome.
to make sure he's on it.
Well, can I just add, one of the things that you didn't, I don't remember if you had this in your celebrations, but your attendance is great.
It's getting a lot better.
Yeah.
It's definitely a focal point. You'll notice for this year, I had to put, right now, year to date, the report that I used for that, it wasn't available when I put this together. We've seen a significant increase, but year to date so far has been great, and we're hoping to maintain that. Yeah.
So thank you for what you do. And I think the thing that I enjoy about, regardless of whether it's the beginning of the year or the end of the year, the collaboration that you have within your schools, I mean, that's key, using who
Yeah.
you've got that can help solve those problems. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Oh, go ahead, Nelson, sorry.
Here's an easy one. I know school security is priority, but why is it a challenge to get your cameras replaced or repaired?
It is a priority. What we see, like you said, school safety being a priority, what we see right now with our system, we have had several instances where we've had a situation occur, and I have to make sure I give kudos to the people that are helping and supporting Marcus. Our IT guy has been phenomenal. Aaron's been very, very responsive to our needs. We just have lots of issues with glitchiness and cameras just not working, and just there has been several instances where we went to go view footage so we could get a clear idea of something that had occurred, and we don't have that, and that's difficult.
Well, that is a concern. I mean, yeah, when it goes a glitch, just in an instant, at that time, something's happening. My question again is, why is the IT not on it?
I think they're doing everything they can, so I don't want to throw anybody under the bus in that regard. It's a challenging. I don't think it's a quick fix, but it is something that this year already had multiple times has occurred. Ryan Nelson and I had to work on a situation that dealt with students from both of our schools. Had a surveillance camera right there, visible, motion activated, and should have caught exactly what occurred, and there was a time lapse for about 30 minutes where it wasn't available.
All right, thank you.
Is that something that will be addressed in those security plans? I mean, will those cameras be upgraded at all with that school? Or would it be something that'd be addressed?
No,
at all?
that would be completely separate from what we're talking about with
It would
the
be?
entryway project, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good. All right.
Okay. You get the hot seat now.
Tough guy to follow right there, that's for sure.
All right, okay, just go right ahead.
All right, so I gotta have my readers, I'm getting old. But our celebrations, we really, as a staff, came together at the beginning of the year and felt like cell phones have been a big problem. So we've made a commitment as a faculty to go by what was in our handbook, and students dock phones, and it's been amazing. I've heard positive things everywhere. Kids are more engaged. Parent feedback is they love to see that break that they have. There's been a few that are concerned with safety, right? We always have that, but the cell phone thing has really made a difference in the beginning of our first 6 weeks of the school year. I've had 3 or 4 all cell phones brought to the school, to the office to get at the end of the day. But the kids have also made the commitment to stay engaged and interact better. So that's been a great thing that I see a big difference in our it goes with our 90-day plan with an engagement as well. Let's see. Ryan's a lot smarter than I am. We're really excited about, this first time since I've been principal that we've been fully staffed with paras and teachers and everything else. So that's, to me, is a huge celebration. And the new people that we've gotten have been amazing. We added an EMT class that they can get certified as EMT. You can see some of our CTE stuff, and it just feeds from what we're doing at ARL. It just kind of adds what Mr. Palmer and Mrs. Turk are bringing to ARL. It's like a feeder program with CTSO. So you can see that a lot of our kids could come out of our school with certificates in EMT, medical terminology. They're getting types of credit. We also have automotive service excellence technician certificate, so these kids can come right out of high school and start working. And that's our whole focus in life, right? Get them ready for the future and what they could do as citizens. So, another celebration that we don't have on there that happened yesterday was our Civics Day. I've heard great things about what we did. We took our whole school there to it. It took a bit to navigate all that, but the kids were very engaged. Got to meet some of our local leaders and learned all about the different type of the Constitution Day and all the different things, and they had to get signatures from the presenters. So I felt like this is something I would like to do and see every year from our school, and kids get to participate in every year. But it was a big success. I don't know if you heard the radio thing. Our teacher, Jesse Grover, was on the radio today and talked about it. So if you get a chance to go back to Red Rock 92, listen to that morning show. It's something that gives you a lot of good feedback of what happened on that day. So I know the superintendent and Lori were also there, and so we appreciate all our local leaders that came in and helped with that. We're 3-time state champs again, looking good in sports. Our kids are involved and engaged. We preach that every year. Be a Bronco, join the herd. We added be a winner. And it doesn't mean be a winner on the football field or anything. Be a winner in the classroom. We've seen some behaviors down a little bit. We've had some intense stuff around the school, but we're dealing with those things. But more and more, we're seeing a lot more engagement with our students. So challenges, our goal, I feel like reading is going to be something that we're going to focus on till I retire. A lot of our students are not at grade level. And what do we do to help support them to get at grade level? You can test all you want, end of year testing, but if they can't read it, it's going to be very challenging. So we're really looking at, as a leadership team and as a faculty, how we really make it more of a focus, adding incentives. We'll have a book club. We have a book club meeting during RTI time for those upper division kids. And the kids that aren't, we have a genre, is that how you say, I guess, of different things that they'll pick a book in that area. And if they finish that book, they'll get a certificate or a ticket, and we'll do some drawings throughout the year. But reading, it doesn't only happen at school, it's promoting it at home as well. And we will meet as a leadership team in October 2nd to really gear down to figure out how we can help support
our students with disabilities, and our students that are multilingual. So we're just coming up with some game planning, do a lot of research to figure out how we can help support these students. Other challenges, always, we feel like we're busting at the seams. Right now, we're looking at adding girls wrestling in the winter. It was on my spend plan. You just never know. I've had like 8 girls come to us. So where do we practice and where do we go there? Safety concerns, also the front office, Tyrell's been very good with that, with our input, and I'm liking the plans of that new front office. That makes sense. And security, I could add the same thing, but we'll work with IT people with the cameras to make sure we have things hit where we need to be seen. Unfortunately, bad things happen at schools once in a while. But our goals, we're excited about our 90-day plan, and our focus as teachers is going to be engagement, because now no cell phones, right? We got to have a little more engagement, and what that looks like. We met as PLCs and came up with a definition of engagement that will be put on our 90-day plan. We're still in the process of getting all our clear data in so that we know where to go from there, but engagement and teacher clarity are our main focuses for the first 90 days for the problem of practice with our teachers. And we'll do some peer observations. We share ideas, and then our PLCs are going to get stronger and stronger, that we can collaborate better every week and what each kid is doing. Just Tuesday, we met as a grade level team to gear down these tier 3 kids so that we can start having behavior or learning plans put in place so that we don't allow kids to fall behind, that they stay at grade level in all things. So, all right, let's go with some questions.
Does anyone want to give some?
I have some questions.
Yeah.
The cell phones. So do the students have the cell phones on them, and as long as a teacher doesn't see them?
Well, I give the teachers autonomy on how they perform. A lot of teachers like them parked in a parking lot, or they go and deck it. They know what to do. Other teachers, I don't want to see it. So it just depends on.
So some of them, they actually make them take them away from them?
Yeah, we have docking stations, so right when they walk in class, they know exactly what the teacher wants. They put them in the dock. They don't touch them all day. We don't even let them use a technology break. They're not being used at all for 80 minutes. So.
Okay, so each classroom's different, but kids do bring their phones to school. They have access to them.
They do.
But they're just not out and
we were going to go as far as just banning them completely, but we know with the.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Is the same standard used at principals' meeting? Or the principals get out their phones?
I will say no, and partly because that's a necessity. I mean, emergency could happen at the school where they need to respond, so I think.
Well, I know, I'm saying the students have their phones in some cases, and I'm saying not that you take them away, but do you also request adults' undivided attention away from their cell phones, or do we?
We get a technology break, and if we have an emergency at the school, because it happens during principal's meeting, but we do have.
Right, I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying.
But we do have kids on 504.
I see as many adults who are not engaged in things they should, I took a phone call during this meeting, and I didn't expect that, but when I saw it, I knew it had to be taken care of, it was a timely thing. And so I'm just saying.
But we do have students that are maybe medical emergencies where they get to have their phone out, and that's done with the 504. And our teachers are aware of those students that have to have them. But as we've asked our teachers to lead by example, it's kind of different than principals, because I'm a teacher. If I'm up here with my phone, what kind of example am I? So we've asked the teachers to set the tone and limit if you need an emergency, we'll call you from the office. So I think that's more applicable. And the kids that really, parents need to get hold of kids, we make sure that they know to call the office, and we'll go down and make sure it's taken care of. But yeah, us adults are very distracted by cell phones.
Yes, we all can be.
A little timeout is always good, right?
Yeah.
I will say that was an interesting thing yesterday, because at our booth, that was one of the things is if that's passed by the legislation, then the ban on cell phones in schools, and I think, and we talked with Senator Hinkins about that, is that some concern of having local control, and that's exactly what you've done. And I feel like when there's some buy-in with the students and the teachers, I mean, what a great thing that has happened versus just, I think they're kind of panicked it'd be a total ban. And that was kind of what we spoke with him about yesterday, is this total ban panics them, but giving them a little bit of, hey, let's be responsible, and you take the lead in it, and you do this exactly what you're doing in your school. I mean, I think it proves that you've had some great results with it. Make them be responsible.
And I think we'll see it with our data too.
Sure.
We're keeping track of each kid that we take it from, and the next step, if it's twice, the parents have to come and get it. We have a conversation with them, and
Yeah.
and I've had parents go as far as just don't even bring it, or you're just going to leave it at the office. And so there's buy-in from the parents as well, which has been very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's important when it doesn't look or is not punitive.
Yep.
Yes.
When it's
Absolutely.
the buy-in. Then another question. As you know, I had a concern at the first football game about safety.
Yeah.
And then there was, because I witnessed something. And then we had another incident. So are those things being addressed now? Because there's, 100 people behind those bleachers.
I hate
And
home
I've been
games.
concerned about it for a very long
Yeah,
time.
so,
But,
Mr. Palmer and I, because we share, it's his kids and a few of mine, right? So we're looking at some floodlights to maybe project over there. We met as a staff and we did walkthroughs on the second game. I've asked law enforcement, they take a walkthrough so that things don't happen that did happen, unfortunately. But a lot of times we can't be everywhere, right? But we're looking at motion lights, and we actually went to Ace Hardware to see what they had there, but we're gonna go in a different direction. Just some lights. Last year, we had a cop just shine his light out there the whole time. I mean, it's just unfortunate that something like that happened, but we're patrolling it better. We take turns between Mrs. Turk and Mr. Palmer and I and our law enforcement, because we met with them and said, can you guys please come and just walk behind the bleachers? And if somebody's there every 5 or 10 minutes, we're not going to hit everything.
I walked back there this last game.
Hey, thanks for that, too. I appreciate that.
And I was on picture at Palmer, the other one, in between there. But now I can't remember. I'm getting old. I forget mid-sentence everyone. Anyway, go ahead and finish what you were saying, because I forgot.
We just want lights back there. I mean, I obviously feel like I need new football lights anyway. They're old and outdated, and so we're maybe look at some LED. We'll actually brighten it back there even more. We may not have to go there, but the whole football field, I hate the setup. You can come in and out of anywhere with any fence. It's just outdated, just like a lot of our school is, if you know what I mean. So
Right.
there are not enough
And
stands.
so, and so I remembered many years ago when it was discussed multiple times, requests about the ARL kids having high school activity cards, and the very, safety issues came up, because it was like San Juan High School has their people there and they know the students, but then if ARL students have activity cards and there's more of them who attend, and then there's not that presence necessarily of ARL kids there that are known well to the high school people. And that was a concern, and that was one of the many reasons why it didn't happen for many years, because, now, help me, they do receive those, no?
No.
I can't remember.
We don't.
Okay, and that is one of those concerns, because you have more kids coming who are not.
But the great thing with
Is-
Mr. Palmer and
Is he,
they're always there.
he's always there, I know,
He's
because
there
he was
with-
right.
That's
He
the
was
perk of
there
his
by-
job.
Right. And besides, he likes that. But anyway, so,
We may
I've
look
had
at that. I mean, funding, it costs so much money to run different programs, right? Like, if they bought that activity through us, maybe it'd go into our activity budgets, but that's something that Mr. Palmer and I can talk about and look at, 'cause
Yeah, I was
obviously
just, I was just kind of remembering out
Love
loud,
those
and that
kids.
was that has been a concern, that then you have a whole new school where they're not, so
Well,
lots
so-
of kids and possibly more discipline problems.
Yeah,
So, anyway.
we're pretty fortunate that we have such good community support, and we love that these ARL kids and elementary kids come to our activities, because I guarantee you Barkley Christensen was behind the bleachers when he was in 4th and 5th grade playing football, getting ready. It's just something you kind of a passageway
Right.
that most of them did, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Colleen?
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have something?
I did, sorry, we'll step away from the football. A question I had was towards the cell phones. So my kids are tricky. They'll have an AirPod on and they'll control it through their Apple Watch, even though their phone's docked over there. Is that something that you've had
We're looking at that too, because
Okay.
I've heard a couple kids, parents actually buy them an Apple Watch
Yeah.
since we put the rule in and been enforcing it, but hey, we've asked them any type of electronic device, unless it's within a 504 plan.
Okay.
We got to dock it, whether it's a watch or a phone.
Okay.
And that's something we really look at too, because rumor has it, kids are getting iWatches now.
Yeah.
Too bad,
There's
huh?
always
But has there been any theft with somebody taking somebody else's once they put them, I mean, that would be a concern of mine as a parent. I would say, I want my child's in their pocket, I don't want them docking it. That would,
Had zero theft with phones so far in the last 4 years. You know, they might lose them. Well, maybe,
well,
I
I mean,
should say
say, when
this year.
they put them all together in a, you know, something, that
A
would be,
race to go get that phone when it.
well, I know, and anyway, that would be a serious concern of mine as a parent, that I would not agree with the docking. I would say my child needs to stay in their pocket, and as long as,
They have some amazing docking, maybe you could come in and see them, and they have
Oh, okay.
pouches. We have pouches, the number on it. Some of them we even lock. Some even have them in a lock there, and the teacher goes and helps them get them out too, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Can I just share,
Yeah.
you know, we were talking about the football thing, but I do want to acknowledge that San Juan High School does a good job of including its students in the crowd. I don't know how many of you went to the Desert Hills game a few years ago, and the majority of their students were behind the stands.
Yeah.
These are high school students. These are not elementary kids, they're not ARL kids, they're the high school students. And so I think we need to acknowledge that, and that's true at Monticello games too, and it's true at Whitehorse games. The fans are there, the
Yep.
kids are there, the kids are part of it, even if they're not on the team, which half of them are on the team at San Juan High School. But they're there, and they're participating, whether it's in the band, or a cheerleader, or drill team, or student section. I think San Juan does a good job of including those students, so kudos for
Hey, we
that.
appreciate that. We preach it, be a Bronco, join the
Yeah.
herd, and doesn't matter how you do it. And that motto's been going for 4 years, 5 years now, so
Yeah.
we want them involved in anything. We'll sit down and I have a meeting with the student. I was like, what club you in?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. Well, let's find you something to do and be a part of, so.
Right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you,
Appreciate you
guys.
coming in. All right. Okay, LA-specific licenses.
clock. Oh, it is right.
Yeah, so the LEA-specific licenses, if you remember, these are temporary licenses the board approves for teachers who may not be qualified, that do not have a professional teaching license. I did a little differently this year. I separated out the licenses and the endorsements, so you have a better picture of what I'm really asking. Can you click on the licenses one first, Jared, not the endorsements? So I am requesting 7 licenses this year. And one thing I'd like to point out is I am requesting 7 licenses, but 5 of the 7 that are on this list already hold a teaching license, just maybe not in that content area, or maybe it's an out-of-state license that they are still working through the paperwork to get it moved over to Utah, and this would be just a temporary fix while we're working through that, because our deadline for funding for the educator salary adjustment is October 1st. So that's kind of the window we're up against. So that's some of the reasoning for a couple of these. And then the 2 remaining people on here have a bachelor's degree in the related field, and they are enrolled in our alternate pathway program to get the teaching pedagogy classes to earn their professional license. So I just wanted to make it really clear that we are not just hiring underqualified people, that we have people that already have teaching licenses, and that some of those are actually in another alternate pathway program with us to earn the other teaching license, or they are, or have an out-of-state that they're just waiting for paperwork to be processed. So those are my teaching license requests right now. And then And then I do have some endorsement requests. And so endorsements are a little different. So these are people who have the correct license, but maybe you don't have the endorsement to teach the specific class that they've been asked to teach. So one thing to remember is that we do ask a lot of our teachers to teach some classes outside of their main content area as we're growing programs. So you may notice we have several teachers we've asked to teach. We're growing drones. So we have a lot of teachers we've asked to teach the unmanned aerial. So we see that one on there. And then we have teachers that maybe have a social studies composite but don't have that geography. So we do ask them to start working towards these endorsements, but getting the LEA specific buys them some time to be considered qualified while they're earning those endorsements. So I just want to make it clear that we do have qualified teachers, but maybe they aren't specifically qualified for the 1 or 2 courses we've asked them to teach at some of these schools.
Go ahead, Nan.
Laura, can you share a little bit what those pathways look like, how we're supporting these teachers to get the endorsements and the licensing that they need?
So for the licensings, we're actually, our pathway is run through the Southeastern Service Center. So we have some requirements depending on which license they're going through, but we have pedagogy classes that go through SUU, and they have a class in like special education, they have a class in classroom management. There's 5 specific pedagogy classes they have to take, and then we have all the classes required for a specific endorsement if it's a secondary license. If it's an elementary, we have all of the elementary content classes they have to take, as well as the foundations of reading. So that for the elementary when they're going through the alternate pathways. And then they also have a lot of clinical experiences we require them to do. And so that's things they're doing organically through their teaching process, but we require them to show us artifacts that they've done that. So some of those things are like, show us how you've participated in IEP, write us a reflection of what that looked like, what did you learn? Some of those are just observing a master teacher, go into their classroom, what are some things you saw, what did you learn, tell us about it. So we have them work through that, and so that program usually takes about 3 years. They can work through it a little quicker if they want to, but we plan on about 3 years. But they're not on that LEA specific for the whole time. We do get them to apply for their associate educator license before then, because they're usually qualified for that before then. The LEA really, we try to treat it as a temporary license. We want to get them off of that as quickly as possible and move on. And the associate license is only good for 3 years as well.
Do we have people that choose to do that a different way other than through the school district, or is it usually?
If they don't
following
have a
that?
teaching license, they can get their associate license and go through a university preparation program, but for the most part, they choose to go through us. But it is a little cheaper. Those courses through SUU are usually about $300, and the state is continuing to find other ways. They have micro-credentials that are a little cheaper as well for those pedagogy classes. But we've now graduated a handful of teachers off that program. It's been a nice thing. It's been successful. I've seen good results from it. So as we're struggling to get teachers, it's been nice to have people with a bachelor's degree, especially for secondary in that content area. For example, business, we've had a lot of people with business degrees, but not the teaching piece that we've been able to bring in from the business world and get them into the teaching program.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Is that why, Laura, that on Montezuma Creek Elementary, it's blank on the endorsement because it's the alternate?
There's no endorsement for
Oh, okay.
elementary, it's just a license.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you. Okay, we'll turn the time over to the superintendent for the strategic planning.
All right.
Oh, you can just go
do
down the
both.
line.
Yep, we'll keep going. Okay, so for a number of, quite a bit of time and years have been invested in our San Juan Quest model, which really is, you could see it hanging on the wall. It's really, that's been the outcome of all of that work, of many, many hours and many people being involved. Not only in designing the Quest model and modifying it over time, but also the portrait of the graduate work that occurred with that committee, as well as revising the mission statement for the school district, and the vision statement has stayed the same. So the next step in a strategic planning process is really to look at what our core values and what would be our priorities for the next 1 through 5 years. So we will be working on a strategic planning process over the next school year with the hopes that we'll be able to roll out our 5-year strategic plan at the beginning of next school year. So the reason I'm bringing this to the board is we would like at least one board member to be on our steering committee for the strategic planning committee to participate in that work throughout this school year, to be ready to roll out next school year. So posing that to the board to see if anyone would like to volunteer to be a part of our strategic planning team. And we will be focusing on gathering data, reviewing that data, both in focus groups and survey data from all of our stakeholders as part of that process. And so that's.
So it narrows down to 3 of you,
Well,
technically.
I volunteer, assuming that nobody randomly shows up and runs against me. I think it's probably too late to sign in as
they
a
can't
write-in,
file
so,
against you,
yeah, I'm willing to do it.
Just to say, I love that you're including a board member on the strategic planning, so.
Thank you, Nan.
Okay, you can just go to the next item.
Yep, so the next item is our out-of-state students. You can see on the attachments, students that are new this school year applying for out-of-state have the word "new" in front of their name on those attachments. The rest of them are students that have been at our schools previously. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
There's nothing preventing them from us approving. I mean, I'm sure they've been through, going back and looking at the forms and everything. There hasn't been anything that would say otherwise.
No, we have reviewed those forms for the criteria that we have set for out-of-state students and having them reviewed to make sure they're meeting that criteria.
So can you clarify on, I think it's the first one, it's for Navajo Mountain, but it says it's they live in Navajo Mountain, Utah. Is that not correct? Did I? That's a new one. Or am I just not reading the form correctly? That first new one?
Yeah, I can check the address. Typically.
Because everything said like Navajo Mountain, Utah.
And you'll find we had the help of Jonathan English to create a report for us this past year as we've made these changes to ensure that we're approving those students who are out of state. So when we run that report, it was about 3 pages long. Some of those addresses were Utah addresses, some of them were not. But some of them reside in Utah, some of them did not. So typically what we do with our transfer students is we pull up our impact aid map that has the sites of each students that we do for impact aid, and then that helps us. We have to review that to determine, are they truly an out-of-state student or an in-state student? So on this one, I am not sure. We'll have to go back and check that one, but if they came up on that report and we mapped it, then that means they were out of the boundaries of Utah. But I can double check on this one.
So my other question on that is, if they are from out of state and they're approved, do we still get the federal impact aid?
We do.
Okay. All right.
For clarification on that, we get the impact aid, just not the WPU. Is that accurate?
Correct.
And then if it's not a student who lives on the Navajo Nation, then we don't get impact aid or WPU.
Yes, if they do not live on tribal lands, we would not get that.
And it looks like we have only one that does not live on the Navajo Nation. Is that accurate?
Any tribal land?
The second one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
My question was, is she not related to the ones who are
She is.
in state now anyway?
Yes,
So
so-
maybe clarify that a little.
I mean, we talked about, I'm trying to think of, we want to give a specific
But won't be
information about
living-
individual students.
No, just the ones we
So just in
approved.
general, we did discuss some other students last time, and this is linked to that student. That person that they're linked to has acquired housing in Monticello, so they have not
Yes,
moved into that housing yet.
Okay, so I read the email, and so that means the children of the employee they'll be Utah residents. And then there's one that is not a Utah resident, won't be living in Utah, but will continue to reside in Colorado?
This is
that
one, we'll have to see
correct?
if they're going to be residing with them in Monticello or not. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
But if they did reside with them, then they would be considered
Utah.
residents, so, okay. Any more questions on this?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
What's the maximum distance for them to be out of state to actually be out of state, I guess?
We never have really determined what that is. And partially, I think, because if it's a teacher that lives, we have some teachers that travel a distance to get to the school, or staff members. So if they're bringing their own student to the school, I don't think we've ever determined a distance. So that, I know that in Runai, when I was reviewing them, there was one student that was a significant distance away from the school. But again, we're not transporting them, so I don't know if they're living with a family member part of the time that's closer to the school, and that's just their home residence. But that would be a consideration for the board if you want to limit the distance that we approve out of state. But typically, if they're living further away, there's a circumstance involved of why they're attending our schools.
Now, if they are living with a family member, even part of the time, because they want to come to our school, can their residence change so that we get, I guess in the Navajo Nation, it doesn't matter whether, no, because if they're in Utah, staying with a family member.
They are Utah.
Then they are residing in Utah. So my example that I'm talking about could be that they're living in Kayenta. This is a Monument Valley high school student.
Let's say their family lives in Kayenta. However, they're staying most of the time with, they stay both places. Can we count them as a Utah resident? How does that work?
It's the address the family uses for the registration, and we do have a number of students that maybe their family lives, in Kayenta, for example. I'm just going to use that hypothetically, but they stay during the school week and sometimes even on the weekends with another family member that is in Utah, and they would use that Utah address, and they're not considered an out-of-state student because they are residing in a home that is in our school boundaries.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if we have somebody in Kayenta, but we find out that can we instigate a change of address if they're, do we have those incidences where we'd be able to collect the WPU by changing a legitimate address to where they're at?
I think that's part of the purpose of the form is if they're using an address that's outside of Utah and outside of our school district boundaries, the form helps facilitate that conversation to say, where do you live? What are the circumstances? On there, ask the reason why. Mm-hmm. So during that process of filling out the form with the school, because this is not an online form, this is an in-person form they do at the school. So at that time, those conversations can be facilitated to see what the circumstances are for each student.
That was going to be my next question, because we have a student on here who lives in San Juan County, who's previously gone to San Juan School District here in the county, but just went to another school out of state. But we're still making them fill out the form, even though they're a resident.
So again, it goes back to where they are on the map, so I'd have to look at that individual one. So if you want to talk to me, I can take a look at it.
Okay.
When they go and do the impact aid, there is a code that they enter if they are not actually in Utah of where that address is. So again, the addresses can be really confusing. Some of the addresses that said Utah, when we go through that report, are actually not in Utah.
Okay.
The addresses are tricky, right? And if they're using a P.O. box that's in Utah, sometimes that can be enough, but it's really where they're residing. So that's why our liaisons are such a critical part of impact aid, and we use that data to help inform our students here.
Well, and I know, and I don't know, this might be an off-cut question, but with the voter registration, we use plus codes for addresses. Is that something that we could use to further specify their address? Because that gives the exact location of their home.
Yeah.
And I know through working with them that a lot of the homes within Monument Valley, or Monument Valley, Mexican Hat, and even in our district, they all have plus code addresses.
Yeah, we have a process that we use for our impact aid to locate each of those homes. So I don't know if I don't believe we've used plus codes in the past, but we have a process that they actually pin where that person lives on the actual map, and that's how we do that. So that map's already created as part of our impact aid process, so that's why we use that when we're looking at out-of-state students.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we will, Nelson, would you like to report on the Johnson O'Malley Conference?
Sure. This year's theme was Inclusions Beyond Borders, and the conference was held in Durant, Oklahoma, so I traveled from here to Albuquerque and then flew from there to Dallas, Fort Worth, and then rented a car because there weren't shuttling. And the drive was 1.5 hours to Durant. It was at a casino location in a very, very small town. So the Inclusion Beyond Borders is regarding students that are raised by their either grandparents or foster parents, which they don't, not quite qualify for JOM under the blood quantum of 25%. So the idea was to try to change that and go with a lineage. 2 years ago, when they had a conference in Las Vegas that I attended, there was a resolution that was proposed and it passed, and it's a continuing resolution that they're working on, where they could go to the lineage way rather than blood quantum. And because of parents are getting to be young and getting married into other nationalities or race of different individuals, and again, they're being, far and distance away from home. They're not able to get back home to register their child with whatever tribe that they're enrolled in. So what that did was, one of the resolution that we did in Las Vegas was to ask a 6% increase for the Johnson O'Malley to the United States Congress, and they're still in the working process. Because otherwise, if we don't, then we are just opening the doors wider for more Native students to come into the education system and not having enough money. So that was the idea, and also one of our keynote speaker was from here, Mr. Clayton Long. Yeah, he did a presentation on his talk on Navajo language and culture, so that was interesting. They had over 650 to 700 attendees, so it was a good conference. I enjoyed it. Next year's going to be closer. It'll be here next state over in Denver, so I can drive. So that's it. If there's no questions.
Seems like it was a great conference. You didn't go, Colleen?
I didn't go this year.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you. Okay, capital follow-up, and do you want to just hit the next in-school entryway projects, Tyrell?
Yep, will do. Just a brief update on 3 of those projects that we've talked about for months. The Navajo Mountain HVAC project is completed, so they have all new units at that school. I mean, they're still working out some kinks with just a new system, but it's done and up and running in Navajo Mountain. Montezuma Creek Elementary School playground has been selected. They're looking at an install time around the end of October to be completed in early November. So our buildings and grounds staff and director, Mr. Creo, has worked with the school to facilitate that time and when that'll work and how that'll get put in. So that'll take place. It'll come quickly, but it feels like it's been forever in the coming. So we're excited for that school to get a new playground. And then Blanding Elementary School remains on schedule with no significant setbacks. Just put a note in there for you all with the recent rains that we've had this summer. MHTNs and their consultants are working on reviewing the existing retention pond plan to make sure that it can meet the capacity of the rain events that we see in this area and some of those summer storms. So it shouldn't significantly impact anything else on the site, but they are currently reworking that to make sure that it meets the need for our area.
Is that shown on this map? Is that one in the far corner?
Yep,
right?
so in the top left corner is where you see it in that image on the document is where the retention pond is located.
Oh, there, okay.
So when they say reworking, are they expanding that, basically?
So they're just looking at shallowing it and expanding the general area of it, so that it can take on a larger capacity and that the percolation rates will work better for the pond. So they're currently redesigning that and working on a solution.
Yeah, we've always had a lot of water run down that street, but we've had a lot of mud this past summer, so. And And I know of one neighbor that was not very happy. I mean, I know there's more than one, but their yard was significantly affected by it, so, yeah.
Okay. Any questions regarding the capital projects? All right.
No.
Continue. Thank you.
All right, the next item, so this is for our entryway projects. You have the plans on there for some of those remodels. These are conceptual plans. Nothing is obviously permanent with any of these, and not final plans. MHTN has not been given the go-ahead to like continue working this with details. It's just conceptual at this point because we wanted the school board to review and give approval of these plans. But this is to address those 4 schools. There's, in some of the plans, there are even some doors that probably shouldn't be there just to kind of point out that we're still working on the details, but conceptually, this is what we would like to accomplish with these 4 schools to address the entryway. We're also really careful, with the new legislation that was passed in this session, we just want to be careful of what we communicate in a public meeting and public facing as far as identifying gaps in security at schools and school safety related elements. So these are just specific to those locations. You're not going to see the full plans on the public facing or any of the security details, but these are the conceptual plans that we want to look at. And then, one of the things that I know I've mentioned to the board in the past is our Albert R. Lyman plan with the middle school here. There wasn't a real great way to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish with the entryway and improving that without removing a classroom. And I think you saw on Mr. Palmer's presentation today that that's one of their challenges is space with some of the things they're dealing with. So removing a classroom and not giving the classroom back isn't really something that we would be able to do to help the school continue to operate. And so that's why you see on the ARL plans a couple of options there for adding in that classroom to replace what is being taken to do that remodel, to give them another educational space, and another option to do a second classroom there to help with some of their space challenges that they have. So if there's questions conceptually about the plans, I think we should talk about them. If there's specific questions regarding security or gaps in security, the school board probably should look at addressing those in a closed session.
Okay. Any questions on the plans? I don't think there are any. Do you want to, were you going to go over the estimate? Budget?
Yeah, so
wanna do that?
thanks, Lori. Glad you mentioned that. So, with those different options, so everything that comes in, everything that is just involving the entryway remodel comes in well under even the 5 million that we have set aside previously for these projects. And then you can see the different options with the Albert R. Lyman Middle School classroom additions. One classroom, we still come in under budget of the 5 million, and adding a second one would put us, and again, these are estimates with no specific detail drawing. So these estimates, when it come bid day, could be different, right? But these are estimates to give us an idea of what it might cost, and adding a second classroom does push us slightly over the 5 million estimate that we've kind of set aside for the project. And so doing the 2 classroom options, that's what that bottom number is, and shows that we're over slightly. And that's doing all 4 schools and the 2 classroom option at Albert R. Lyman Middle School. And so we would be able to accomplish everything we wanted to, plus add the 2 classrooms by going slightly over over the 5 million that we set aside. And so it's just something that we should consider and weigh as a school board is, there's no cheaper time to add the space than when you're doing the construction initially. And so, do we, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know that we can take a classroom away without giving the 1. So do we really just look at giving the 2? And if we look back historically, there were portables, and there were 2 portables there that were removed at ARL. And so they've lost that space over the years. And this proposal would be to make those not portables, but a permanent structure add-on to give them kind of back that space that was there years and years ago, and add to their educational spaces and just make it an even 2 classrooms there instead of just putting 1. You know, it'd be cheaper to do it now than ever in the future, but just some thoughts there for the board.
Can you, so if we went with option 2, can we dial in more on what a cost would be without, I mean, that's a rough estimate, is that what I'm guessing?
Yeah, so these numbers are estimates based on like these conceptual plans that MHTN has run up, and construction estimators giving us an idea of what the cost would be for all of it. And there are some, you know, again, these are estimated. There's some things that we've talked about, you know, if even looking at, like if we look at ARL and the options, they have a corridor that runs along the edge of the south side of the 6th grade wing that's built in there. And as we talked about it, that's not really a necessary corridor, and it's square footage that's interior. And so that's space that we could remove. It still provides the educational space, and that could cut the cost down even from that. So we, you know, I think that number could even be lower of what we go over based on just fine tuning some of these plans and saying, hey, we don't want to go this route. Let's to cut some costs in the ARL plan with the corridor, if you see it on the south wing of the 6th grade hallway there. So it would reduce the amount of square footage to reduce our cost.
So this is an action item, so really you're needing kind of a confirmation from the board as to which direction to head.
Correct, to
tonight.
get
So-
detailed plans with it, because they haven't done any detailed plans for the schools until we tell them which way we want to go, and then they'll move forward with planning that.
Okay, so does anybody have questions?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Steve, did you have anything? Okay, Nils?
I do, but it's not pertaining to the capital.
Is it?
It's the other school in LaSalle with the water issue.
Oh.
Where are we with that?
Well, you can ask, if nobody has anything more on this, then we'll.
I kind of have a weird question. Is there it says the corridor is not really needed. Is there, I mean, could there be a plan as to using that corridor and making those into small classroom storage, whatever?
Well, it's
and
a
implement?
corridor that they drew in.
Oh, okay.
So it would be built so that, and so if we didn't build that corridor,
Right.
it could be even less than what they were predicting.
Okay.
And it would still work even without adding the corridor.
Yeah, so
Okay.
right now, there's a door that just goes to the outside into the courtyard. And when they gave us the 2 classroom option, they show a corridor, an indoor corridor being built where those exterior doors are now. And it just runs along that side of the building and just gives an interior corridor to get from where about the lunchroom is
Yeah.
over to those new classrooms without having to go through the 6th grade wing.
Gotcha. It's been so long since I've been in there. I'm trying to.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Have the plumbing issues been resolved at ARL? Ryan?
No, Ryan, how's that going for you?
No backups this year.
Okay.
Okay, so far, so good. And has it been fixed repeatedly and then failed again?
You'd have to ask somebody that has more of a historical knowledge. I don't know the attempts to fix that. Paul probably knows even a little better than I do. I think most of that happened when he was there. We just have issues with the constant backing up.
Do they need to come to the front?
When that restroom on the south side of the school.
Paul, would you just
Yeah.
use the mic, sorry, so the audience, so that virtual can hear. Thank you.
Okay, when that restroom failed on the south side and we had the sewage that ran along the south side of the school and up towards the north side, that was all fixed, and I don't think there's been any backups from that bathroom. That's that main bathroom right by the front office complex there. I think once that was fixed, that is good, and we haven't had any other issues since then. I think where it's backing up is like the kitchen area and the
Kitchen
office.
area, office restrooms. We We have had a little bit of, not full black backing up in those restrooms since, but there have been a few issues that have had to be addressed.
So, I mean, that's such a fundamental part of a building, such a basic necessity to have, you know, not have those kinds of issues in a school. So is there some way we can address that with this, or look into what needs to, you know, a permanent fix for the plumbing at that school, for the sewage and, you know, whatever, as we're going through this? I just think that's such a basic need.
So essentially it'd be like one classroom plus the sewage plus the addition, you know what I mean? I mean, I would think that. Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, now you're reading.
What else?
Okay.
What else is wrong?
So I guess you'd have to do an analysis on it and figure out what's.
Yeah, we can, and you know, in talking with our maintenance staff, and I talked to Kedrick about this, and they were gonna try to address it by adding an additional, I'm gonna say the wrong things, that they, clean outs for it, to be able to address it, if there was any other issues, and I think they've tried to do some of that to help alleviate it, and hopefully, you know, let's knock on wood that we don't see it anymore, with the issues that they were facing, but
That was
they've.
one of the big problems. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. That was one of the big problems, is not being able to find where, even with snakes and cameras and all that, not being able to really find where some of those issues were. And so that conversation of just digging up and just creating a new clean out so that there are issues, just to be able to pump things out quicker, probably is sufficient from the conversations that we've had. But.
Could I just add, I would assume some of this is in collaboration with the city, making sure that we have the right, are there issues related to the city more than specifically the district?
I don't know that it's on the city infrastructure, though. I think
Okay.
the issues have been with our schools, but
Like, the first issue was a pipe, something backed up and the pipe failed, and then they found out that it had been corroding over years, and so there was lots of leaks along the way. So I know that was all replaced at that time.
Okay. I'm not trying to throw the city under the bus. I'm just saying I know that some of these things relate to city plumbing. I know that there have been stuff with the new project related to that too, so.
Okay, thank you. Nelson, you want to do your follow-up?
Sorry to open a can of worms. Yeah, the email that we've gotten with the LaSalle School, I just wanted an update on that.
That would be.
do you want me to give it?
Yeah, you can give it.
So they have water in the school now. We had an issue with the pump in the well. And so, again, Kedrick Red has been involved with that and has put in a ton of time to help resolve the issue. They put in a new pump last night, and they got they got water back into the school. There's still some issues that they're trying to deal with, and we don't have a firm answer on to what it is, and so they're still trying to work on that, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to give you even more of an update. But they do have water in the building now.
So is it in the meantime that they're still going virtual?
No, no, they have water in the building, so they.
In person?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So it's 5:05. We do have one item that I see for closed session, so we can either break or go into closed session to finish up. What do you prefer? Closed. Okay. So I need a motion to go into closed session for the discussion of purchase, exchange, or lease of real property. If I can get a motion for that?
I make a motion.
It's right there on the back.
On the back of?
Your agenda.
Oh. Do you want to do it now? I have all this is. Move to close session for purchase, exchange, and lease of real property.
Second.
Second by Steve. Okay, roll call.
Nan Barton, yes.
Colleen Benelli, yes.
Steve Black, yes.
Lori Mon, yes.
Nelson Yellowman, yes.
Mary Shumway, yes.
Okay. we'll give you a few minutes, Jared, and then we will be back at 6 for to do our San Juan Squared Recognition Awards. This is where we recognize a couple of our employees for the good work they do in our district. So tonight we're going to start with Amanda Black. So you get to come clear to the front and face the audience. And our board member will present that to you. So come all the way up and look that way if you don't mind. And thank you for being with us. And congratulations.
All right, this San Juan Sweet Job Award is given to Amanda Black, who is the librarian and student council advisor at ARL Middle School. Amanda has gone above and beyond this year for ARL, and I think that's true every year, right? Every year. She spent tons of extra hours before school started arranging Chromebooks and getting them ready for students. She has also taken a lead role in advising our student council and has already done multiple activities with them. And I can attest, I know, because she did that with my daughter a few years ago. And while we appreciate all these things, the teachers and staff are most appreciative of her arranging our camaraderie team and heading up the lunches and other staff events. She is a crucial member of our faculty, and we couldn't do it without her. Thank you, Amanda. Which way are we looking at? Thank you. Thank you.
okay, is Janice here? We don't see Janice? Was she, does anyone know if she's coming?
She didn't respond, but she wasn't.
Okay, if she comes, we can always stop and we'll do a bunch of. So, Amanda, thank you for what you do in the school. We appreciate it. Oh, you don't want to stay for the rest? Hopefully your kids got a lot of candy. Hopefully they got a lot of candy on the way out.
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to our citizens' comments. So I have some information that I need to deliver first. So the purpose of the San Juan School District Board of Education meeting is for the board to conduct its business in public as provided by law. The San Juan School District Board of Education values and welcomes public comments, so time is allotted in our public meetings for such. However, to maximize its benefit, there must be structure and consistency to the practice. With that in mind, please know that public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective criticism of school operations and programs, but complaints about school personnel or other persons will not be allowed. Individuals expressing comments should not expect an immediate response from the board. Please understand that the comment period is not a debate, an interactive question and answer session, or a dispute resolution forum, but is an opportunity for you to express your comments, suggestions, and concerns to the board for our information and consideration. A member of the district staff will respond to patrons who request a follow-up meeting or information. So tonight, I think we have 2 comments. So we'll start with Courtney Shumway, you're first, and then I think we have an email that Laura will read for us. And then he'll start your timer for you. Thank you.
All right, I'm here today to ask you as board members to reconsider the San Juan School District becoming a provider for the Utah Fits All Scholarship. The scholarship was created with the idea that each student is unique with different learning needs, and when educating your child, one size doesn't fit all. If you had children yourself, you know no 2 children are alike, and that includes their learning needs. I come from grandparents who were educators who taught, counseled, and led in this exact district, so education has always been important to me. Because of this, I have ingrained the importance of education in my home. My children love academics, and it's because we have fostered this early on. I have taught and encouraged their learning at home, which I have found valuable and effective in expanding their potential. I also know the value of public schools, specifically the notable schools in San Juan School District. Our staff, teachers, administration, and school community are exceptionally stupendous. I have loved the connections my children have made at school, the programs they have been involved in, and the valuable life lessons they learn at school. With both types of learning being influential, vital, and beneficial in their own way, I'd prefer my child to participate in both. And this scholarship allows for that for my family as well as other families in this community. The money that is given from the scholarship will be utilized in one form or another, and I would love for the money to go to San Juan School District and not outside programs and facilities. I want our county to benefit from this. I would like to work with you as a partnership so that we can benefit each other. Can you help me get this money into our district while encouraging and promoting successful academics? As a parent, community member, and taxpayer, this option should be available, especially in a rural underserved area that has limited resources as is. Living in a rural disadvantaged area creates barriers for options for learning. The San Juan School District involvement would allow students, especially partial and homeschool students, to reach their highest potential by utilizing valuable courses through the district. I understand that there may be some work that needs to be done, but I know it can be done. We have seen it with other districts, so let's do this to create opportunity and potential growth for our unique students. I have put a lot of time, effort, and research into this, and I'm willing to do more. Please let me know if you have any questions, need additional information, or would like more contacts. I would thoroughly be delighted to partner with the district and gain your support. Sincerely, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay.
This is from Crystal Lesner. It says, "Good evening. My children are recipients of the Utah Fits All Scholarship. I am emailing you to please reconsider becoming a provider for the scholarship. While this year there may only be a handful of families that are recipients, I do believe that will be more receiving this scholarship next year. This scholarship is new, and I understand that there are a lot of unknowns. But what I do know is that we live in a very rural area. Because we are so rural, our children don't have all the opportunities that the students in the cities have. For example, in the larger cities, scholarship recipients have the opportunity to go to a gym and participate in an exercise course provided by that gym. But where we live, we don't have the opportunity, so by not becoming a provider for the scholarship, the students are being denied the chance to participate in PE. Also, another example would be scholarship recipients in larger cities have the opportunity to become part of a community band or orchestra. Where we live in rural Utah, there are not public band opportunities, so by the school district not becoming a provider, these children cannot participate in band and grow their musical knowledge. I am the mother of 5 children in San Juan County, and for my family, I do feel like it's best for me to homeschool them for their core subjects, but I also know the needs of my children to be able to participate in gym class or FFA. And again, I ask you to please reconsider becoming a provider for the Utah Fits All Scholarship to allow the opportunity for these children growing up in rural Utah to have a few more opportunities available to them as a homeschooling child. Sincerely, Crystal Lesner."
Thank you. Is that the only one, Laura? Okay. Courtney, I assume this is a different form than what I'm used to. Did you want a response back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do the wrong form.
No, I don't think it's you. I just think it's what we had on the table. It just doesn't give you that option, so I just wanted to clarify. So, thank you. Okay, seeing that there's no other public comment, you are welcome to stay. You are welcome to leave, and we will proceed with our agenda. So,
Can we put that on the agenda for next?
what we'll do is, I will get a request from board members, if that's what we prefer, and we can put on.
I'm
Is that-
requesting right now. All
Okay.
it takes is one board member to request it, just so we can.
So you want it back
look
on the
into
agenda for
it.
next month?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, okay. We'll make note of that, and then you can reach out on that one.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we are gonna move, so did you hear that, Courtney? That, I know beyond, okay. We're gonna move to our consent agenda, so if I can get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, motion by Nelson, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion with anything within that?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll move down to our possible action items. So, if anyone wants to make a motion on the USU Monument Valley building lease assignment, it's open for a motion.
I move to put this on as a possible action item for our October 9th meeting, the USU Monument Valley building lease assignment.
Okay.
And include the open discussion on the agenda as well.
Okay, so motion by Mary, do I have a second? To move the agenda item to.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Discussion. With the idea of possibly maybe calling a special meeting because of the deadline? Was that what we discussed in the open meeting?
Yeah, I think that
Because
would.
it was a deadline.
Yeah, and I think that would result after the conversation with the superintendent, and then if so, she'll call me and we'll send out that email, because you'll have to verify
Yeah, if the
deadlines.
board's
with-
That's not my motion, though.
Yeah.
That's not my
No,
my
he's
motion.
asked, no, he's asking that in a
Do you want that in a
discussion.
motion?
I don't think so. They, as Colleen pointed out, you know, we leased that property 2 years ago, and this was fairly sudden to us, and I think it's better when we're here in person and not, you know, remote. We have better, it's better to share that information and have a more productive meeting. It's just 3 weeks.
So I would think right now it'll be postponed to the next meeting unless there's something extremely urgent that she finds out. The information be communicated to the board. If we feel it's a need to meet again, we can. If that works. If not, we'll just October 9th.
Agreed.
Okay, anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
This motion is for the acceptance of the Teacher and Student Success Act school plans. If I can get a motion for that.
I move that we accept the Teacher and Student Success Act school plans for 2024-2025.
Okay, motion by Nan, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
This is San Juan School District Policy 6120 regarding our admissions. That was a second viewing on that, so if I can get a motion to accept that. Did we have any changes on that one?
Do we have any changes on that one?
It's both, we were looking
Yeah,
at
we-
it's both.
it needs
Oh,
a change, so
okay.
that one shouldn't.
So, all right.
We just decided to do it.
No one made a motion to accept, right? I can't even remember. Okay, so we'll go beyond that one. Was there any changes requested on the next one?
Just a grammatical change.
Okay. So this is San Juan School District Policy 6420, the students' rights, education and family privacy. Excuse me. This is also a second viewing, I believe. And there was just a grammatical change that needed to be made on that policy. And yes, it was our second viewing.
So you need a motion? I make a motion to accept the San Juan School District Policies 6420, student rights, education and family privacy with the grammatical changes.
Okay, motion by Colleen, do I have a second?
I will second the motion.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Oh, yes. You know what? I just saw a note. A note of a question that I had that I didn't bring up, and it is under 6420.3. And it states, I remember what it actually says without looking at it. It states that I believe a copy of the survey or copy will be provided. That's the wording, that it will be provided. It doesn't say upon request. And the reason I noticed that is because when we, a year or so ago, when I asked multiple times, I said, so when that goes out, the survey is included for the parent form. And I was told yes, time after time, and kind of drilled it in even a little bit more. And it was finally mentioned, well, if a parent requests it.
For these specific surveys, they are included right then, so
Oh, okay.
So it was the, I can't think of the name.
It surveys with
Sharp?
early warning.
Not the
um,
survey.
Okay.
Not the sharp, early warning.
Anything, the early warning, anything with social emotional, anything with school climate is now required under recent legislation.
Okay, so
last
when they
legislation.
get the actual, because that's what I had understood all along, and I think it was
So not
the
all
sharp one,
surveys,
but
just those
these,
specific ones. They
in
are
this,
provided.
okay. So they're provided, nobody has to request them. If the parent wants to read them, they're accessible right there with the form?
At the time, it's not.
At
an
registration.
opt-in, it's an they have to opt in, they can't, it's not an opt-out. So they have to
Okay.
actually opt in and they're provided the copy of the questions at that time.
And there's not a single parent or guardian that has to ask for it? Okay,
Not
all right.
It's part of registration now.
Okay.
It's part of the change.
Not
And
for
those
those
forms-
specific ones. There might
Okay.
be other surveys that they
Okay.
have to, but those specific ones, no.
Okay, thank you. That answers that, and I don't have any concerns about it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
LEA-specific licenses and endorsements, if I can get a motion to approve that list.
I move to accept the list that was presented of the LEA-specific licenses and endorsements.
Okay, motion by Mary, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Out-of-state transfer students. I can get a motion to approve this list that was provided to us in the executive content.
I will make a motion to accept the out-of-state transfer students by the students that were listed on the forms.
Okay. Motion by Nelson, sorry. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question about, did we get the one student answers on that question?
No, but if we find that they are on the map in Utah, then automatically they'll be.
They're
Then
removed from the
We would no
list,
longer need
basically.
to
Okay.
waive their tuition.
All right.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
The school entryway projects. Did we need a motion on that, or was it more?
Yeah, mostly just on what direction we want to go, which with the options. I mean, if we're good with conceptually how everything else rolls out with the other schools, mostly it's the ARL question for us.
And Ryan left.
That was option 1 and option 2 that we were deciding on,
So
right?
kind
And
of,
we have a letter from Ryan.
okay, so
Yeah.
if we can get a motion to approve one of those options or ARL on the school and proceed with the other
Okay.
ones.
I move to accept the school entryway projects as, you said they're not final projects. They are
Conceptual.
Okay, start over. I move to approve the conceptual school entryway projects, which would include option 2 for ARL, due to the letter that Ryan Palmer, the principal, wrote to the board expressing the need for that option.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mary, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just think it's a good idea to build while we can, and it sounds like it's basically within budget, so I.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I don't think we need a motion for real property. So, okay. Would you like to do our information items?
Yes, I would. So our next board meeting is scheduled for October 9th here at the district office, and will be broadcast virtually. Our Native Youth Student Leadership Conference will be tomorrow, September 19th, and then our Heritage Language Conference will be Friday, September 20th. The NAFIS conference is coming up. Tyrell Pemberton and I will both be attending the NAFIS conference, and that is September 22nd through 24th. Our regional USBA meeting will be October 1st at 6:30 p.m. at in the Grand School District office.
Well, and Eva usually sends out a text. Please respond to her if you want to carpool, so she'll know.
That's usually at 6, but it says it's 6:30 this time.
I don't know if we can change the time.
Really?
I think
Is it, should it be 6 or is it
thought
what
it was
time?
Usually 6. Will you double check
Yeah,
that?
I can double check that.
But I think the 6:30 is a good practical time to hold it. I like
I'll
that
follow
change.
up on that.
Yeah, just double check on
Yeah.
that if you want.
And
Because
then-
we could, we can request it. They just pick a time and tell us.
And then the NIEA conference is October 9th through 12th, and then fall break will be October 11th.
Okay.
What is NIEA?
It's the National Indian Education Association
Oh, okay,
conference.
because it's not NISA.
No, that's in December.
Where's that held at NIA?
San Diego?
San Diego this
Are you
year.
going?
I don't think so.
Okay, you might as,
We do have a district team that's going.
oh, you do have a district.
Drive
team.
and go
Oh,
all
okay.
night.
So, and then one last thing,
Tell us.
Sylvia, I'm gonna have you really quick. There's a shoes for kids on September 21st. Is it Saturday?
Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon, and it's going to be at the building, USU building next to Craft Market.
And it is a place where kids can come and get shoes.
Any school-age child can come. They have to come with their parents.
Yeah.
Or, an adult, whatever, yeah.
Okay, then come with your child, so, is that information out to students, do we know at all, or do we
I'm
send it
not
out?
sure I can follow up.
Okay, so will you leave me your flyer? Okay, I think that's it, and we are adjourned, thank you, everyone.
It is 6 p.m.
Oh, the meeting
That
is
is a
6
typo.
o'clock, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, okay.